So, welcome everyone. I think we can start now. And before we start, let's take one moment of silence just to ingather ourselves, and then we'll read the opening aspiration. So, I would request if anyone would like to read this aloud for all of us, that would be really nice. Anyone who feels like reading.
With boundless compassion and wisdom, I will work for the welfare of all. May we be free from hunger and discord and have joy and a world at peace. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's start. I think we last time we finished the introduction, if I'm not wrong. Let me just open it. Yeah, so this was the intro, and we were almost, I think, if not finished, we were towards the end of it.
Yeah, we had not finished. We were at the end of it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so I think we were almost here. Yes. So we'll take up from however, page number 8, introduction, and that would be the end of introduction. We can take a few reflections and then we'll start the verse 1. So would anyone want to read starting from however much outer guk? Anyone who feels ready?
I'll read.
Yeah, please. Yes.
Yeah. However much outer gunk there might be around, if we diligently clean the pot, then it will shine. This silver pot was there all the time. It doesn't go away it doesn't go away and come back when we clean it. It is always there, but we don't recognize it. All we see is the black covering. Whereas the great Mahabodhisattvas and the Lamas, the true, genuinely realized Lamas, are very much in contact with their silver base. They do not have that tarnish the way we do because, one sec, because they have already done the work necessary to polish it up and maintain its innate shine. But their essential nature is the same as ours. This is important to remember. The perfect Buddhas, source of happiness and ultimate peace, exists through having accomplished the sacred dharma. And that in turn depends on knowing how to practice it. This practice of the Bodhisattvas I shall therefore now explain.
Yeah, Shweta, maybe you can take this up as well, the last paragraph.
Okay. The Buddha, like Shakyamuni Buddha, on a relative level, had to strive for countless eons to clear away the tarnish and come back to their true metal. How did they do that? How did all the Buddha of the universe become Buddhas? They became Buddhas by actually practicing the Dharma. It is important that we practice and take it to heart rather than merely read about it. This is why this text is so important. It is not high philosophy that we need to go away and think about. That is all up there somewhere in the sky. It is absolutely down to earth, which we all can use all day with whomever we meet. In fact, only by meeting people can we truly practice.
Yeah,
Wow.
thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, any reflections, anyone?
Long journey. That's all I can reflect and think. Long, long journey. Yeah.
So I think this really is in resonance with many, many masters, and often we wonder what are, some people were wondering what is the commonality, what are the differences between these Buddhist teachings and the teachings of integral yoga. But somehow I personally have felt there are rather more and more resonances and helpful pointers than the differences. Or maybe times have changed. These are said in contemporary ways that maybe they are made for us, like in the lifestyles of today. And somehow I feel that these teachings not only add on, but they kind of really push us on the path of integral yoga. I'm unable to find any discord here. Many people were wondering, and one can also have a clash thinking that Buddhist teaching is different and integral yoga is talking about something else. But somehow, so far in my journey, I have not been able to see much discords. And the only thing I see is that this is a very helpful parallel kind of, cues, pointers, and good tools and methods in the process to practice. As Shweta was sharing, that it's a long journey, and in this long journey it's good to have many little pointers and tools, and these teachings are such pointers and tools towards the path of integral yoga and aiding the process. So that is what I see here also. And just like in integral yoga, we talk about stepping back from the surface consciousness, stepping back from the outer personality, stepping back from the, the ego temporary personality. And that is what we see here, because all this tarnish and guk, it's like just a covering, it's not the true us. And that's what integral yoga in also, mother talks about, that when we step back from the surface consciousness, when we step into our true consciousness, it's always there, fully enlightened, waiting for us. Even in Savitri, similar lines come, that this treasure is always kept safe for us, no matter how in so-called wrong directions one may go. And we have many examples of people uh, being criminals and terrorists, and really done all kind of things which can be called as sins. And yet they have, if they want, if there is an aspiration even after that, that no, I want to get back to something beautiful in myself, then that is possible. So that something beautiful in us is never decaying. It's always kept safe. That's what we see in Savitri, Sri Aurobindo telling us. And the effort that is required is in continuous cleaning of this dust, dirt, which continually keeps on accumulating. And that is why the importance of vigilance, importance of being conscious of what are the thoughts we are harboring, what are the feelings we are harboring. Because unnoticed, the layers just add on, add on, add on, and we maybe wake up after some time. But if now we have the capacity to become conscious, to be conscious, that is where the effort has to be put. No matter how many times we may slip, we will slip, but again, dusting off the pants and moving on again, being conscious again, no matter how many times we may slip. So almost kind of a shamelessness that is required here. So this, but their essential nature is the same as ours. And that is why they say that, it's not that when one person is getting connection with his true nature, he would not want anyone else to be away from it, because he realizes for himself that this true nature is belonging to each one of us. It's not belonging to this limited separate sense of self, that this, oh, I have grasped something, it's in my hands. It belongs to everyone. This true nature belongs to everyone. It's not a possession of one limited self. Yes, Shilpi, you wanted to share something?
Yes, Monica, you just said a word that resonated with me now, which never used to earlier, but you said shamelessness, right? And I used to hear it, and I always used to wonder that, how can you be shameless? That is like being irresponsible. And, you will go away from the right path if you become too shameless or something. But only now I'm seeing what a gem of a word it is, and how empowering it is to keep on the right path. I mean, like if there is an inner urge to move in the right direction, then shamelessness is a really good friend, I feel, because the thing you said, the next day you again dust off your pants and then you get back on. And shamelessness is kind of a best friend that helps you kind of not get too lost in guilt or shame or, things like that. Yeah, so just wanted to say that.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Anything anyone wants to add on?
Yeah, on the practice aspect, like,
Mm-hmm.
if I just recall what Jetsunma had sent to us, right, for the as the opening thing, like the message she had sent. So the only thing I remember is practice, right? Practice, practice, practice. So somehow I see this in me that when I hear something and I understand it, there's something in me which says, I know it now. So it's as if when I understand something, it has become me. But that is just on the mental domain, right? It has to be, I don't know, kind of bought into the physical, into my actions, into my words, into my feelings. So again, this practice, this ego really tricks me and tells me I know. But when I try to practice, I see that, oh boy, I don't know. Those were just words. So again, just wanted to say this for myself and everyone, that we cannot substitute practicing by just listening. It's not like, it's not possible. It's a trick of the ego which tells us that, at least it tells me. So just the practicing thing, that whatever, even if we could get one thing and if we could put it in our everyday, that's I don't know. Without that, it's a bit just more like entertainment, I feel. That, some people like to watch movies, maybe others might want to come for sessions. But if it's just listening and it's not coming into your life, and initially it has to be implemented mechanically. That even if I don't want to, I will start doing this because I know this is something I want to do, right? Or this is something that will take me where I want to be. So, mechanically doing it is part of inculcating it into our daily routine, because it feels it should come from inside. It should come from inside. That too, I believe, is just a trick. So we have to force it initially, and then obviously it picks up, right? It becomes the routine, it picks up. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think a very simple indicator that has been given to us, not that simple, it's a bit painful, is is the unease that we have, the unease, the constant sense of unease. And at times we may call it suffering, at times we may call it stress. I think names can change, but we do have signals which tell us that we have to get back to the practice of it, what you were sharing. And somehow that conviction comes only through our experiences. And uh, I feel that we cannot, somehow these things are that you cannot force them. I don't know, maybe you can force them. I'm just wondering, because if I don't feel the need of changing the path, why would I change the path? If the life right now as it is going is not giving me pain, is not giving me unease, or at least I am that numb that I am not feeling the unease, whether it may be present, then why would I change? I think that's why we see such drastic changes in our lives, most of our lives, where we have so many examples that after a disease one wakes up, after a breakup one wakes up, after some shattering in work life, finances, something is required so that we wake up. And at times, of course, we are so sleepy that even after that we don't really truly wake up. Even that signal has not been enough to wake up from our slumber. So but I feel that if I become in my life sensitive to this sense of unease and really don't want it now in my life, so developing a good taste in my life, having a taste for a simple uncomplicated mind life, and purity in the being, then we will be convinced uh, to turn up for anything which benefits that purpose, which aids that purpose. And if there is still a suppression that I can see, that I have to suppress and then be somewhere which I feel is right, I think maybe why to torture oneself too much? Maybe fulfill whatever you want to fulfill, and then ultimately we will turn up. I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud, just reflecting out loud, nothing concrete here. Yeah, somehow for me it has been this sense of unease that has brought me back again and again, and still keeps me bringing back to a continued practice, because that taste is not really that good. the taste of constant unease and lack and suffering in life, somehow it's not a very healthy taste. So losing a taste for that kind of a life, that may convince also. Just adding on to what you were sharing, that may also convince to continuing and getting back to the practice. Yeah, and I totally resonate that all this discussion or talking about it actually is, most of the time can be just mental satisfaction, like ego feels so boosted by a brainstorming or discussion. But when it comes to the actual real kind of practice in our interactions, in our speech, word, thoughts, feelings, we see that still the old patterns are ruling, and it's nothing. And when you were sharing, I was reminded of, when the first time, uh, there was this time when I was being diagnosed, and there was some healer sitting in Dehradun or somewhere in the mountains, and she had to assess whether I would be okay without surgery, or because I was wondering whether I should take surgery, not take surgery, can I be okay without it? And then she had to assess it. And then the question she asked was that, uh, do you know how to meditate? And it was so hilarious at that time. Of course, I didn't find it hilarious the answer that I gave her. It was that, when she asked, do you know how to meditate, I told her that yes, I have read books about meditation. I mean, what was I thinking? And then of course I sat here, and the she sat there, and I didn't know how to meditate and what to do when you sit. And then she declared that you better go for surgery, nothing for you here. So yeah, that was very interesting. So all these, mental philosophizations and mental rumination, regurgitations, which may intellectually be very satisfying, are no proof of the real practice. Totally resonate with that. Yeah, anyone wants to add on anything before we move on?
Is
Yes,
there a shortcut to
shortcut.
cleaning?
Yeah, that's a good question. Do you think we have a shortcut?
Perhaps,
Mm.
depending on the preparedness of the soul.
Mm.
I guess the vessel represents the soul, I guess. And churning that the author talks about is where the rust has formed. Assuming that that particular vessel has gone through several churns in different lives, if there are different lives and rebirth, then perhaps that process will be accelerated. Perhaps. I'm not sure. That's why the question. But thinking logically, which normally Buddha does, I guess there's some people who can actually escape the process of churning because they can mentally jump that queue. But there are some people, perhaps, who don't need to indulge into material interaction with people or world. But these are, of course, thought processes. What happens in actuality is the question that I would like to seek some reaction from the group. It's not probably a one-time process, the churning. Perhaps it's life after life, because the depth of discovering is so endless, or seems endless, seems almost impossible, perhaps, in many times, that this cannot be possibly be just cleaned up in one's lifetime. So one needs to posit a process of rebirth and perhaps arriving at the causeless cause at some stage. But yeah, these are the things I ponder, because one is obviously gets frustrated. People try for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. I mean, this is not something that people just pick up in a whim and assume that all work will be done in a 3 years or 5 years course, like in a medical college or something. So there obviously is some kind of metaphysics to this, but I know Buddha tends not to go into this aspect, because he's a very practical man, giving gnan to laymen's. I don't know what group wants to say that to this reaction.
Yes, anyone? Yes.
Yeah, I would just like to again ask that what is a shortcut, right? Like when you were asking the question, it seemed that okay, you have to do this and then you have to transcend that, and then there would be mental things, and it's like what would be a shortcut in this case? How would you define it if you could?
The shortcut is defined the cleaning of the vessel in the shortest possible time and at the lowest possible risk,
And
and
who
to achieve the goal.
judges what is, yeah, and what is a short time, what is a long time, who decides that? Like what if it is happening in shortcut only? Like how do we know? I mean, is it possible to know these things? I mean, just wondering at the question that again, is it a trick of the mind that is trying to trick me? And instead of me practicing, and I'm not saying you're doing that, just wondering aloud that these questions, which we don't have any way of knowing where it's taking me or what are the judging criteria, because mind also is a tool, right? It cannot know everything. So with my
Going by
limited
the
mind,
people who have
yeah,
lamas who have realized the full cleaning, if you go by
yeah,
the examples, does that throw
yeah.
any light? I don't know if they did it in one's
Yeah,
lifetime.
because this exactly, because we don't know how many lifetimes are there, how much they have gone through, what all they have gone through. I would how I mean, like if I'm reflecting on your question, I'm unable to even understand how one would know it's a shortcut, it's a long cut, or what kind of a cut it is. And secondly, why would I want to go there? Because again, I have a limited mind, a limited time. I can either spend it on seeing, okay, what do I do? Tell me what do I do? Or I wonder if they are shortcuts, just that. So nothing much to add. I'm sorry, but
The
just that's
lifetime
what
is
came to me.
lifetime is a very long time to do this practice without knowing whether we are going to come to a realization, and
Yeah,
sometimes obviously pointless. But if there is a hope that this is going to achieve in some kind of complete churning and cleanliness,
yeah,
then one can deploy oneself. So that's a
yeah,
question. I mean, it's fundamentally for us, we
yeah.
in a finite world, we understand only finite time unless one is spiritually elevated. But
Mm.
so that's my answer to you regarding time frame. If that helps you to define my question, at least it may
Like if
not
it will
be.
happen in one lifetime, then probably, right? That will I be able to gain something in one lifetime, right?
Yeah, because the examples I've seen in Sri Aurobindo ashram is many people are, doing that, but perceptibly, there is hardly any change. So one wonders whether this practice where they've dedicated 50, 60, 70, 80 years of their life, and is it all a kind of an imagination, or is it something tangible and real with R capital,
Yeah.
Is it all abstract? Is it all just a kind of a creation of the mind to
Yes.
to kind of find a solution to its questions? So it kind of constructs this kind of architecture. And if you remove the architecture, then we come to the real world. Real world as material world. And sometimes it gives us solace by thinking in the manner we are thinking and reading, and it gives us temporary that hope. But is there a reality, and can this be achieved in one's lifetime? These are important questions for me, at least.
Yeah.
Because there is no point in pursuing something which doesn't exist.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Taru, for your sharing also. And thank you, Sid, for your question, reflection. And let's hear from the mother also what she has to say here, that how much time it takes. And also that I think coming back to the basics, which I think Taru was also pointing at, is that basically just crux of the matter is that we have three parts to our instrument, which is the body. Our thoughts, I think all of us can agree on that. Our thoughts, feelings, and then we have the body, sense perceptions. Now, knowing that I have this instrument, this vessel, which takes me, allows me to live this human birth and do whatever good deeds or bad deeds I'm going to do here. I think the basic crux, which again and again both Sri Aurobindo and Mother also come to, and here in Buddhist teachings also we come back to again and again, is that our mind is not in our control at all. So before going to the question of will I be able to accomplish this or that in this lifetime, which is a far-fetched goal, can I just ask myself, can I silence my mind even for 2 minutes? Because this is the instrument that I'm going to use for any kind of realization. This is the instrument that has been given to me. And the question I can ask in one of the ways, just one of the ways on sharing something on this reflection, is that only for 1 minute, 1 minute is also a big time actually, you would see. I think all of us would see that 1 minute, 2 minutes, a few seconds, the moment we bring our attention on one object, whether it is breath, the body, mother's name, anything, how long are we able to sustain it? And we all know that we are not able to sustain it, and that is the practice, that our tool is out of our control. It's like we have a knife, and that knife is just bonkers all around, going here, there. And how can I say that I have a tool when the tool is not in my mastery at all? Because this is the tool which is my tool for all kind of realization, whether it's a shortcut, long cut, any cut that I want to take.
But the tool itself doesn't have the construct to do that. We are trying to impose that particular
Yes, but
specification,
it
but the
has
mind does
it
not
has
have the
the power.
capacity.
It has the power, because if you go through even a bit of, I'm sure you would have gone through Sri Aurobindo's words or any master's words, you would see that they talk about quietening down the mind so that the mind becomes an empty vessel for gaining the higher truth, for having insights, intuitions, wisdom. But the point is that mind itself is such a chatterbox that the doubts and questions and doubts and questions and doubts and questions, like ta 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 ta, it doesn't stop. And if that doesn't stop, how can I imagine that something higher will fall into it? Because it's not empty, it's just full. It knows. And how can a master put anything into a container which already knows? So I think this is not coming just from this group, but if we go into any teaching, emptying of the being, emptying of the mind has been one of the cornerstones of any practice, any spiritual practice. You know what they also called as, they name it as being nobody. Like neither you have any image about the world, nor do hold any image or opinion about yourself. But is that true for me right now? That's not true, because I have all the images. My container is full. So how can I even ask for something more when my container is full? That's the question. Also, again, just sharing that in one of the ways we can approach this is also this, to make the tool ready. And that's what the practice that we have been talking of. When Jetsunma is sharing or any master is sharing, practice, practice, practice. It's refinement of these tools. Mother and Sri Aurobindo talk about refining the mind, making the mind so vast, so flexible, supple, open-minded, wide. That's our practice. So before we reach the point of any, long, whether it will happen soon or later, what am I doing right now is the question. Is the mind only for 2 minutes listens to my command? It doesn't. So ज़्यादा दूर की बात करने की अभी तो मेरे पास कैपेसिटी नहीं है. Right now I can't talk of what will happen in future, while right now my mind is out of my control. So I think this is something very beautiful about these teachings, that they bring us back to right now. अभी क्या चल रहा है? And not to focus on realizations that may come. Of course, things come. We are not the same person as we were a few years ago. Things have changed. Things change. We get rid of a few layers of ignorance. Another few layers may come on, but few other we have shed off. So things keep changing. We keep evolving. We keep growing. But as a few of you were sharing in the beginning, that it's a long process. And it is a long process. All of us would resonate with that, because the more closer we go towards some purity, some realization, the more we realize that there is no end to it. Like it's not a wall that we are hitting, that, oh, I have got it. No, I've got it, and then I've lost it again, and then I've got it, and then I've lost it again, and this goes on until there is a practical, some visceral realization, which is, and mother talks about this, that striking conversions are not real. So when we are talking of shortcuts, we also have to realize that anything that can be have at in a shortcut, like tha, and we have it, it is not real. They are not stabilized. We lose it in a moment. The moment we get it, the moment we lose it, like a click of fingers. And anything, any tool, and all of us are, in this age of our life, that we have talents, we have abilities, and all of us know that if we don't give stable practice and time to these talents and abilities, they are not honed, they are not refined. So if I was a good swimmer a few years ago and I leave the practice, I won't be a good swimmer right now. So practice is important for refining anything, either practicing stillness of the mind, either practicing purity in feelings, or either practicing living a light and simple hearted life. All requires practice, and all the time we are practicing. The only thing is that we are practicing our old habits usually, as Taru was sharing, that it's just running a mechanical run. We don't even know that we are practicing, because we have become habituated to it. सोचना भी नहीं पड़ता उस गली जाने के लिए. क्यों? Because the groove is set. In Savitri there is this term that comes. It's like we are stuck in the grooves of our patterns. So it's like there is a depression. In a groove there is a depression, and your track is set like on railroad, the tracks, the train's wheels are set on it, like there are grooves. That is how our old habits are set, and that is why we forget to walk the new path. It's easier to walk the old path unless the old path brings some pain. And then I wake up, oh, wrong path again. And then I take the new turn. So again, I think we are all in the same boat, and it's not easy for each one of us. One has to see that no one is here who has an easy way out. But anyway, who said it was going to be easy? And as Mother shares that we ourselves plunged into this adventure of darkness to light because we wanted this adventure. It's only that some people remember, like avatars and masters, they remember, but we forget that we chose this adventure. Nobody gave it to us. So when you were sharing, you were talking about this question and reflection. I just, yes, Sid, please.
Oh no, I'm fine. I'm just,
Okay.
yeah.
So I just got reminded of this prayer of the mother, November 28, 1912, because here she shares about how will I, get there, what we were talking. So let's maybe go through this prayer very quickly and see that there may be a few resonances here. Would anyone want to read aloud this prayer for us? Sid, would you like to read since you are unmuted? Okay, now you're muted. Anyone else? Uh, Anybody would like to read the prayer out loud?
Yeah, I'll read.
Yes, please.
November 28, 1912. The outer life, the activity of each day and each instant, is it not the indispensable complement of our hours of meditation and contemplation? And is not the proportion of time given to each the exact image of the proportion which exists between the amount of efforts to be made for the preparation and realization? For meditation, contemplation, union is the result obtained, the flower that blooms, the daily activity is the anvil on which all the elements must pass and repass in order to be purified, refined, made supple, and ripe for the illumination which contemplation gives to them. All these elements must be thus passed one after the other through the crucible before outer activity becomes needless for the integral development. Then is this activity turned into the means to manifest thee, so as to awaken the outer centers of consciousness to the same dual work of the forge and the illumination. Therefore, our pride and satisfaction with oneself, the worst of all obstacles, very modestly, we must take advantage of all the minute opportunities offered to knead and purify some of the innumerable elements, to make them supple, to make them impersonal, to teach them forgetfulness of self and abnegation and devotion and kindness and gentleness. And when all these modes of being have become habitual to them, then are they ready to participate in the contemplation and to identify themselves with thee in the supreme concentration. That is why it seems to me that the work must be long and slow, even for the best, and that striking conversations cannot be integral. They change the orientation of the being, they put it definitely on the straight path, but truly to attain the goal, none can escape the need of innumerable experiences of every kind and every instant. O Supreme Master, who shinest in my being and in each being, let thy light be manifest and the reign of thy peace come for all.
Thank you so much. So there are many, many lines here which are very intimate in alignment with what conversation we were having, that the outer activity, whatever interaction in my day-to-day life I am having, looking at my speech, my thoughts, my feelings when I'm interacting. Many a times we are so rude from within and while we are acting outside. So Mothers is saying that, is that not an indispensable complement for our hours of meditation and contemplation? So whatever realization is happening within, if it is really, really a true realization, would it not bring a conversion in my outer activity? And then she shares later that in whatever, when we are in our solitude, when we are with ourselves, whether meditating, concentrating on something which gives us solace and takes us closer to our true self, but Mother says that is not enough, that is not enough. Again and again in our outer interactions we will realize that, oh, work is not done yet. Oh, still I comment, still I judge. But how would I know this if I don't get into the day-to-day interactions, if I am not conscious of my own inner being when it is engaged in the day-to-day interactions? So that's very, very important. We can't escape this route. It is a long route, and there is no shortcut. As Mother shares, below, that is why it seems to me that the work must be long and slow, even for the best. Now, I don't know where we rate ourselves. You know, Definitely, I would not rate myself in the best. But even for the best, the work is long and slow. So we are all like lambi race ke ghode, we can relax about that. Because the outer activity is the anvil on which my purification will be tested. Time and again, it will be tested. Otherwise, what's the point? What's the point of a realization if outer life remains the same? And then, Mother, in between, she mentions, therefore, are pride and satisfaction with oneself the worst of all obstacles. Thinking, I am done, mera ho gaya. Now it's others or the life to show something up or change. I think that is the biggest obstacle that we can get into. Of course, that obstacle will be cleared after some time, but we do from time to time get into that. I know, I have a complete belief in what my mind is saying. I rigidly, tightly believe in the thoughts that emerge in my mind. I know. So that rigidity of mind, that solidity of sticking to our thoughts and feelings, whatever opinions, ideas we may have, that is what these Buddhist teachings help us to get non-sticky from. That don't hold your ideas too tightly. There is more to life than your ideas. And how to use the time to time, day to day experiences, Mother says, very modestly, we must take advantage of all minute opportunities. Chote se chota, little, any little movement in the day to day life can be a big teacher. You're standing in a queue, you are waiting for something, you realize how restless you are getting. You're waiting for something to happen in outer life. You are maybe looking at somebody's judgment at you, and how much it triggers you from within. So each instance of life can be such a beautiful indicator if we are ready to take it on the process of purification, on the path. So we must take advantage of all the minute opportunities offered to knead and purify some of the innumerable elements. Now again, since we were talking and discussing of, is there any shortcut? Now the elements that need to be purified are innumerable. We don't even know how many parts and pieces of this being there are which have to be purified. So how can we even, talk of achieving it very soon, when I don't even know what all is the work that is required to be done? Innumerable elements. And all of them have to be made supple, flexible, soft, gentle, non-rigid, non-sticky, to make them impersonal. Whenever we are hurt, it's the personality that gets hurt. I mean, all of us, I think, know that. And we know that we are right now not away from getting hurt. So there must be still elements left which need more and more and more purification, so that nothing of me is left. That me that can be hurt, that is not left. And we all know that we are far away from that state, that nothing is left. Because from time to time we see that something or the other gets hurt. So to make them impersonal, to teach them forgetfulness of self, that even if there is a complaint that arises, a ripple of a complaint, you easily brush it off. You don't give it importance. It's just an like illusory image that forms again and again owing to old patterns. So you brush it off. You don't give it importance. It may arise. Sri Aurobindo says it's a long process of total complete dissolution of ego. So these images will arise which will want attention. Hurt will arise, jealousy will arise, all these will keep arising. The only thing is we have to look at it and we have to just brush it away. They are nothing. They are not as solid as they appear to be. So we have to teach them forgetfulness of self, abnegation of self, and devotion, kindness, gentleness. I mean, if I look at this list, I can definitely see that we are really, I'm far away from truly stabilized in this state. Glimpses may be there. Glimpses do come off and on when we are relatively easy, relaxed, and there is no ego active in us. But then there comes an outer trigger and the ego is there, active. So now mother says that first we have to teach them all this. This is the list that is recommended. Of course, it's a recommendation. And when all these modes, devotion, kindness, gentleness, forgetfulness of self, making ourselves impersonal, all these modes have become habitual to them. Right now, what is habitual to me? Jealousy, anger, getting hurt, mood swings, all that is very habitual to me. I don't take a moment to get into that zone. But when these new patterns have become habitual, then they are ready to participate in the contemplation and to identify themselves with thee in supreme. So then everything is integral. Like thoughts also want the devotion, feelings also are devoted, body also doesn't want anything but that. So there is an integral change in the being when they become habituated to all these new beneficial patterns. And that is why she says that the work must be long. So it is a long work. I think we can come to terms with it, that it's a long and slow even for the best ones. And that's so this is what I was sharing, reminding myself in the beginning. And the striking conversions, if you go to a session and you feel that, oh, I am a completely changed person, they cannot be integral. Means that they will take time to stabilize themselves in our being. People have good experiences, like really practical experiences, where they have felt deep peace, not only just mentally, intellectually, in the body, they have felt that deep peace beyond this material existence. And yet, because we are so forgetful, the life that one lives, even after having that kind of an experience, we can hear from them that they also have to continuously remind themselves of coming back to that state of living, which is also possible. So it's not an easy thing for any single one of us. So mother says that these striking conversions can change the orientation of being. They definitely put on the straight path, but to truly attain the goal is complete transformation in thoughts, feelings, sense perceptions. None can escape the need of innumerable experiences of every kind, every instant. So we can really relax, like long journey, have a few good companions around you, and keep at it, keeping it.
That's why Sri Aurobindo says all life is yoga.
Absolutely, absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
his one single summation of the story.
True, true. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone wants to add on here? So, okay, in case of absence of any reflection, let's take up the last paragraph once again and then be done with the introduction part. The Buddhas, like Shakyamuni Buddha, on a relative level, had to strive for countless eons to clear away the tarnish and come back to their true metal. I think this again would be in alignment with the discussion, that we may see, oh, the Buddha has attained something, but we don't see that poor guy, he has been striving, as I think in the beginning, Taru, and you were also discussing that we don't know that how much of the practice has been done in previous incarnations. We don't know, we have no clue how long the person has totally given himself to this sadhana. We have no clue, really, we have no clue. But all that we see is this shine and bright and the peace and the aura, but the practice behind it we don't see. So the Buddhas, like Shakyamuni Buddha, on a relative level, had to strive for countless eons to clear away the tarnish and come back to their true metal. How did they do that? How did all the Buddhas of the universe become Buddhas? They became Buddhas by actually practicing the Dharma. It is important that we practice and take it to heart rather than merely read about it. I think we can, even for some time, forget about reading. And if only we are practicing, that is more than enough, really more than enough. There are many countless examples of beings around us who have mentally, intellectually, philosophically really no knowledge and understanding of these concepts. They may not know what is psychic being, they may not know what is our Buddha nature, but they don't even know that they are acting from their Buddha nature. Such simplicity in life, lightness in life, wanting good for others, not being manipulative in their minds, and that's enough, more than enough to go ahead. And we who become too intellectualized, the problem with us is that when it comes to devotion, we doubt. And there have been countless stories that people have been uh, people have had realizations and experiences even when they were in front of fake gurus. The guru may not have that much of power and realization, but it was the sincerity of the disciple, faith of the disciple, that was so pure that even a fake master, relatively unrealized master, could do it for that disciple. So I think we have to again and again come back to how sincere am I, how purified am I, rather than going anywhere else. So they became Buddhas by actually practicing the Dharma. It is important that we practice and take it to heart rather than merely read about it. This is why this text is so important. And it is said, just for information's sake, I read somewhere that these 37 verses of the practice of Bodhisattva, they say that even if you practice only half a verse in this lifetime, that's really enough, more than enough. So this is not high philosophy that we need to go away and think about. That is all up there somewhere in the sky. It is absolutely down to earth, which we can all use all day with whomever we meet. In fact, only by meeting people can we truly practice. And this again aligns to the previous prayer that we read, that in our day-to-day interactions, that is where we truly practice and get to know how refined are my instruments. That I thought my judgments are gone, and see, even with a friend, I am full of judgments. Forget about enemies. Yeah. So this was, I think, a beautiful starting, the introduction. And then I think we'll take up the next verse, which, although I have already kind of prepared the PDF for it, but I think we'll start with the next session. Just taking you through the first verse, just because it's beautiful, not going into the reflection right now. The first verse is, now that I have this great ship, a precious human life, so hard to obtain, I must carry myself and others across the ocean of samsara. To that end, to listen, reflect, and meditate day and night without distraction is the practice of a bodhisattva. So, see, just read even one line. I think even one line is good enough for reflection and understanding and practice. Yeah. So we can take up any last reflections if there are any. Anyone? Okay. So if there is no reflection, let's take one last moment to share the merit and share whatever we have good we have raised or accumulated through this discussion, reflection, any point here, taking it all on the path and sharing it with all of us, sharing with all the sentient beings. May all of us have peace at heart and progress and joy in life. May all our minds and hearts be at peace, and may we have true contentment, true fulfillment in life. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for staying till the end and listening so patiently and sharing so openly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
Thank you.